Hey, David Brewster here with Three for All, and this is three Larry Carlton licks from 1987. And Larry Carlton's another LA, studio and session master, a legend of, recording and working with artists in the studio. People like Joni Mitchell, Tom Scott and the LA Express. And most people, when they think of Larry Carlton, they think of Steely Dan because he did famously record with Steely Dan back in the day. And other people too, Mike Post, when they collaborated together and recorded the theme from Hill Street Blues, they won a Grammy. But here's an image with some of the people that Larry's worked with in his very long and impressive career. Aside from, the session appearances and studio work that he did, he's also released, a lot of his own music and solo albums. And a lot of those albums charted and were, popular back in the, the 80s and things like that. And, you got to think with a guitarist like this behind the scenes, and sometimes his name wasn't even mentioned, in the liner notes. He just did the session work, the album was released, and people didn't really realize, that he appeared on, certain albums. And here's another image just with some of the famous, albums and appearances he's made in his career. I did get to meet Larry. It was very brief. It was at Sweetwater's Gear Fest a couple years ago. But he was one of the presenters, and he did a kind of presentation in this kind of presentation hall, or like a little, kind of venue within Sweetwater. And I remember it was him and Mitch Gallagher, and Mitch was interviewing him, and it was great. Larry didn't play, but they talked about his career. They talked about, working with Steely Dan. They did some Q&A, with the crowd. And then, I did get to shake his hand, and I thanked him. It was ever so brief. It was like meeting royalty or a president or something. It was like, oh my gosh, Larry Carlton. Really, the biggest thing that you can pick up from studying the music and playing of someone like Larry Carlton, I call it the three T's, taste, tone, and touch, because his musical taste is very impressive. He's a very tasteful player, only plays when it's necessary. You'll never see Larry just shredding something. He's always like methodical and thinking about the song and how to deliver something to add to the song. And then as far as, his tone, it's legendary for sure. Everybody's talked about, whether it's back in the Valley Arts days or the 335 days, using Dumbles and, all these really nice boutique amps and just, great tone, always consistently great tone. And then as far as his touch, the feel and the energy when he plays the guitar, you can feel it. You can hear it, obviously, but you can also feel it, where it's like, wow, so much expression and feel and emotion when he plays. Phenomenal. A master guitarist. The licks in this lesson came from a live performance at the Warfield in San Francisco in 1987. He was doing a solo tour, in support, I think it was the late night era of his solo, career. But, it's a great performance. You can find it on YouTube. It's about an hour long, and there's tons of great licks and phrasing. There's some great ideas that we're going to look at in this lesson. And here's one more image with some great quotes that I found from Larry Carlton. And the first one was actually a quote that he gave at Gearfest when I met him at Sweetwater. The first lick is this really tasty A-flat blues idea, something like this. Very tasteful. One more time. And there you can see we're definitely in A flat, or A flat 7. And when I first started, making this lesson and putting the material together, at first I was like, oh, he's tuned down a half step. And then I had to stop myself, and it's like, no, it's Larry Carlton. He's just playing in A flat. And that's a big thing you're going to learn, from studying someone like him or anybody with, education and knowledge, maybe a jazz background. Rock players and metal players, they tend to shy away, from those flat keys. They usually tune differently. But, a lot of jazz guitarists, fusion players, they're not afraid of, playing in A flat or E flat or something like that. And that's where we are here, with this A flat lick. So we're actually starting way up here on this F, and you're going to bend that up to F sharp. And I love how he's coming out of that, A flat minor pentatonic position right there. But he's grabbing this. more time there. And then he basically shift slides, you know, from that B into that C. Up next is this dreamy kind of blues phrase, something like this. One more time. Now there's something interesting happening behind the scenes. It basically starts with an F sharp major chord. And then on the last note, you're going to hear it shift to A flat 5. Like that. I love that little transition there too, the progression. And you have this kind of sinister chord waiting on this. You know, on that very last note. You know, really tasty stuff. Next up is this kind of funky hybrid picked mix and match between this rhythmic idea and then these little lead licks. And I love when guitarists do stuff like this. Like this. And one more time. And we are kind of, you know, like chicken picking or hybrid picking in there. And we're definitely flirting with, you know, G minor 7. And he's kind of separating, you know, part of the chord from the root. You know, on that first part. And then basically just slide that F into G right there. And then... And you're definitely kind of snapping the strings. You know, and there's certain accented, you know, notes like that that you're going to hybrid pick, and you're literally going to snap it, almost like Jeff Beck or somebody. You know, right there, and then pick that G note, and then the second time you hit it, you want to snap it. And right there too, the first time. And you want to snap that note. And here's a bonus lick from this live footage, and it's this really crafty and tasty kind of outside phrasing. And we're still over G minor 7, so it's from the same song as the previous example, but it looks like this. You know, keep in mind that's over G minor 7. And I love that real sneaky and kind of twisting line in the beginning there. And right there you can see we're kind of playing out of this position, a G minor pentatonic. But he's targeting the major 7 right there, that F sharp. He's also targeting that 9th, you know, that A note right there. So he's using G minor pentatonic, but he's adding, you know, some notes to it. And right there he goes to F natural. So he's kind of blurring between that F sharp and F natural. And then he ends on E right there, which is really weird. And then he grabs this. You know, really tasty lick, and I love the way he put all that together. So really slow. You know, and it's interesting because I can hear lots of modern guitarists playing licks and phrases like that, and I bet a lot of them probably had no clue that those ideas may have originated from Larry Carlton. All right, that's going to wrap this look at 3 Larry Carlton licks from 1987. And definitely Larry's a legend, you know, great guitarist, very respected. Lots of players, you know, look to him as the guiding light, you know, that led their career. People like Steve Lukather, you know, Dan Huff, and a lot of those LA players that came after Larry. They looked at him like the Messiah and they were like, oh my gosh, you know, Steely Dan and everything, you know, we're not worthy kind of scenario. And they're legends now, you know, in their own right. But I know for a fact Steve Lukather loves Larry Carlton, you know, and they worked together and won a Grammy, you know, on that live album from a few years ago. I guess that was many years ago. Anyway, leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.